Hi.
Oh no.
What are you doing?
I turned into a panda.
Oh my goodness. Were you out there just drawing that? This is the intro now. I hope you know.
Bye guys.
Alright, so thank you all for participating in the poll. We came down to a 50-50 split, so I'm just going to talk about the first movie that I watched last night. And so for this video today, we're talking about the newest Disney Pixar movie that hit Disney Plus, Turning Red. Alright, so in Turning Red, you have a young 13-year-old girl named Mei Lee, and she is going through a special time in her life. She's going through puberty, and whenever she feels a strong sense of emotion, she turns into a giant red panda. And Mei Lee has to learn to control to keep her red panda inside so that she can go to a boy band concert. No, I'm not kidding. That is the plot of this movie. Alright, so right off the bat, let's just get into it, because this is a first for Pixar. This is the first movie of Pixar that I can at least remember that is controversial. Yeah, people really love this movie. People really hate this movie. People are kind of in the middle. They don't really know what to think of this movie to some degree. And I'm a little bit in that camp. Turning Red is a really interesting movie from Pixar. It's very different than any other movie that I can think that they've released. Because as mentioned before, this movie deals with a child, a young girl, starting to go through puberty. And in that way, for a Pixar movie, this has some pretty shocking moments that I don't think a lot of people, especially parents, would expect. I mean, there were not so subtle undertones in this movie of girls going through sexual awakenings, getting their periods. There's even flat out mentions and visuals of pads in this Pixar movie. And none of that is a bad thing. That is a very natural thing for girls to go through. And I really do think that Turning Red in that regard is very relatable and very good for young girls in their preteen and teenage years to see. I mean, my wife, during the first act of this movie, she was loving it. She was cracking up. But a lot of these more mature themes are being euthanized in this red panda persona that Mei Lee will turn into. And that's where a couple issues with Turning Red come from for me. I don't feel like the euphemisms that they were going for with this red panda worked all the time. I feel like sometimes the movie loses focus of what they're trying to say with this giant red panda that Mei Lee is turning into. I mean, believe me, for the first act of this movie, I was really into the movie. I was really into what they were doing. I thought it was really cool how they were relating all of the puberty and growing up themes to this giant red panda, which sounds so weird to say. But the red panda isn't just used to symbolize those themes. There's also some mythology in this movie that they tie back to the giant red panda and where it comes from that I actually thought was really cool. Although at times it does feel like it's battling with itself to make that mythology backstory work with the themes that it's trying to display with this giant red panda. I gotta stop saying giant red panda. But once we get into about the second act of the film, that's where the movie kind of started to lose me. Because a lot of this movie focuses around Mei Lee and her group of girlfriends, these young 13-year-old girls who really badly want to go see this boy band called Four Town. And I won't give anything away, this is a non-spoiler review, but the rest of this movie's plot is really about those girls trying to get to that boy band and using the red giant panda to do it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not even saying this is a bad thing. Mei Lee and her friends, I thought they were adorable in the movie. They actually provided some big laugh out loud moments for me in this movie. I thought their friendship was a big part of the heart of this movie. But I will admit that once we started to get into the plot of this movie and how it all centered around going to this boy band concert, I felt like the story of the movie just got a little bit weaker. I thought they set the bar really high with where they were going with this concept. And by the end of it, I just kind of felt a little underwhelmed and a little unsatisfied with where it ended up. And I'm not even saying that as a hater of this stuff, because I will fully be honest with you, I love boy bands. NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, One Direction, I'm even enjoying Big Time Rush's comeback at the moment. And I say that with no shame whatsoever. And so the fact that this movie focused on boy bands and girls fangirling over the boy band, that was not the issue for me whatsoever. It's just the way the story played out, I was a little bit let down by. But once I get past those negatives of the film for me personally, the movie does have the things that Pixar does so well. The movie has a lot of heart, especially between Mei Lee, her friends, but especially with Mei Lee and her mother. Because a big part of this movie is a child growing up and how she's dealing with who she's becoming and how the mother and the parents are dealing with her becoming who she's becoming. And I thought they did a really good job with that in this film between Mei Lee and her mother. The movie also has a lot of charm to it. It's cute, it's fun, it's funny. And I will say that for me, the movie got to a point where it was a little bit unpredictable. I didn't necessarily know where it was going. And by the end of this movie, without any spoilers, I will say right here, right now, I'm convinced this movie takes place in the Incredibles universe. Because if you watch the end of this movie, total superhero origin story. I'm totally convinced that in this world, there's an Elastigirl running around somewhere. And of course, it goes without saying that because this is from a multi-billion company, that the animation looks fantastic. I mean, it's a Pixar film. Of course it looks fantastic. And with all of that said, Turning Red for me was an alright Pixar movie. It was definitely not a bad movie. I think this film will hit the best with preteen girls, teenage girls, mothers and daughters. But I do think that for some people, it's not going to be their thing. So if anything you heard in this review sounds like your thing, go ahead and watch Turning Red. But for that reason, I would give Turning Red a weak recommend. I don't think it's a must-see. But anyway, guys, what did you think of Turning Red? There are a lot of opinions out there right now, so I want to hear all of yours down in the comment section below. As always, guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video and checking out my channel. If you're new here and you like talking all things movies, TV, and all things entertainment, why don't you go on and click that subscribe button, click that like button, click that notification bell, all that YouTube stuff, and I hope to talk to you guys again real soon.